This broadcast is dedicated to showing you the unvarnished reality of our courts and streets. Expect nothing less than unfiltered, unedited, and exceptionally raw footage. We place you directly on the front lines of justice, delivering the facts without any distortion.
Step off the platform, now.
Behind the yellow line with a valid fare. What law am I breaking?
You're being disruptive. Last warning.
Standing still isn't disruption. Am I being detained, yes or no?
Keep talking.
And you need to step off the platform now. The officer's voice cut through the morning noise like a blade. Metal wheels screeched against steel rails as a train rushed past on the opposite track. Cold air tunneled through the underground station, carrying the smell of oil rust and damp concrete. Commuters in dark coats moved around them, eyes forward, pretending not to see. "I'm not violating any rule," the woman said calmly. Her voice was steady, controlled, almost quiet. "I'm standing in a public area with a valid fare. On what legal basis are you ordering me to leave?" The officer shifted his weight hand, resting near his belt. His jaw tightened. "You're refusing a lawful order. Step off the platform before this escalates." It was 7:42 a.m. Rush hour. The platform was crowded with nurses, office workers, construction crews. Everyone was late. Everyone was tired. And now they were slowing down, glancing sideways, sensing tension. The woman didn't move. She was dressed plainly. Dark slacks, a wool coat, flat shoes, a leather shoulder bag hanging at her side. Nothing flashy, nothing threatening, just a black woman waiting for her train. "I'm asking again," she said. "What law am I breaking?" The officer exhaled sharply, the sound heavy with irritation. "You're being disruptive." Her eyes lifted to meet his. Standing silently is not disruption. A phone came up behind them, then another. Someone a few steps away stopped walking entirely. The crowd felt it now. That moment when authority meets resistance, and no one knows which way it will go. The officer's face flushed. This wasn't how these encounters were supposed to work. People were supposed to comply first and question later. People were not supposed to quote the limits of his authority back to him on a crowded platform. "Step off the platform," he said again, louder this time. "Last warning." The woman glanced briefly at the yellow safety line under her feet. She was behind it, perfectly placed, exactly where every sign told riders to stand. "I'm not resisting," she said. "I'm asking for clarification. There is a difference." That difference enraged him. He stepped closer. The space between them shrank. The sound of the station seemed to fade, replaced by the dull thump of blood in her ears and the low, static hum of power running through the rails beneath them. "If you don't move," he said, "I will remove you." Remove you. The words landed hard, heavy with history, heavy with implication. The woman took a slow breath. Not fear. Calculation. She had spent her life in rooms where power tried to bully silence into submission. Courtrooms. Hearing rooms. Federal offices where careers ended with a single sentence spoken too carelessly. Around them, strangers were watching now. Waiting. Some angry. Some afraid. Some already filming, instinctively aware that whatever happened next would matter. The train announcement echoed down the tunnel. Arrival in 90 seconds. The officer reached for his radio. The woman didn't flinch. "Before you do that," she said evenly, "you should understand that every second of this is being recorded. And you are about to make a decision that will follow you for the rest of your life." He scoffed. He had no idea who she was. And that ignorance was about to cost him everything. To understand why the woman on the platform did not move, you have to rewind decades before that morning. Long before the echoing station. Long before the uniform and the badge and the raised voice. Her name was Angela Brooks. She was born on the south side of Chicago in a neighborhood where sirens were background noise and silence usually meant something had gone wrong. Her mother worked double shifts as a hospital clerk. Her father drove a city bus until his knees gave out. No one in her family worked in law. No one talked about federal agencies or ethics oversight. Survival was the priority. Angela learned early to observe power without trusting it. She watched how rules were enforced differently depending on who you were. She learned when to speak and when to stay quiet. She learned that being right did not always protect you. School was her way out. Scholarships, late nights, a public university, then law school on merit. While others chased corporate jobs, Angela chose prosecution. Not because it paid well, but because she wanted to stand where decisions were made. She worked cases no one wanted. Police misconduct, abuse of authority, internal investigations that stalled careers and made enemies. She did not yell. She documented. She did not threaten. She cited statutes and precedent. Over time, her name became associated with one thing: relentless integrity. By her 40s, she was recruited into the Department of Justice Ethics Division, the unit that reviewed complaints against federal officials, including law enforcement. The work was quiet. No press conferences. No public praise. Just long reports and consequences that arrived months later, undeniable and final. Angela never announced her title in public. She believed authority should be invisible. She dressed plainly, rode public transit, waited in lines like everyone else. That morning, she was on her way to a closed-door briefing, one involving misuse of force complaints tied to transit police across multiple cities. Irony had a sense of timing. Now rewind the other direction. Officer Daniel Mercer had been wearing a badge for 11 years. He joined young. Military background. Clean record on paper. Supervisors described him as proactive, assertive, confident. What the evaluations did not say was that Mercer struggled with being questioned. Complaints had surfaced. A commuter detained too long. A warning escalated into a citation without explanation. A pattern of confrontations that ended just short of discipline. Each time the reports used the same language. Subject was uncooperative. Officer perceived threat. No sustained violation. Mercer believed rules existed to be enforced, not debated. He believed hesitation signaled weakness. He believed control kept order. And he believed that when someone challenged him in public, it was a test he could not afford to fail. That morning, when he saw Angela standing still calm, asking questions, his mind filled the gaps with assumptions. Defiance, attitude, challenge. He did not see a federal ethics official. He saw a problem forming in front of witnesses. Two lives shaped by power in opposite ways collided on that concrete platform, and neither of them knew yet how far the consequences would travel. The platform felt smaller now. Angela could sense it before she saw it. The subtle shift in the air when attention gathers. Shoes slowing, conversations dying mid-sentence. The quiet buzz of phones waking up in people's hands. She reached into her coat slowly, deliberately, the way you do when you understand how easily movement can be misread. From her pocket, she pulled out her transit card. She held it up at chest level, 2 fingers gripping the edge. Valid fare, she said. Scanned at 7:39 a.m. You can confirm it in your system. Officer Mercer didn't look at the card. I didn't ask for that, he replied. I asked you to leave. Angela lowered her hand. You asked me to comply with an order that has no stated legal basis. A man a few feet away stopped pretending to read his phone. A woman near the column angled her camera slightly higher. Someone behind them whispered, This doesn't look right. Mercer's jaw worked back and forth. The presence of witnesses pressed against him like a wall. Backing down now would mean admitting error. Error in uniform in public was humiliation. I'm giving you one last chance, he said. Step off the platform or you will be detained. For what? Angela asked. Her tone did not rise. That somehow made it worse. Please articulate the violation. The word articulate hit him like a slap. In his training, questions were challenges. Challenges were threats. Threats required dominance. He had learned that lesson early and well. You're interfering with my duties, he said. A murmur rolled through the crowd. Interfering by standing still. Interfering by speaking calmly. That is not interference, Angela replied. That is speech. Someone behind Mercer spoke up. She's not doing anything. Another voice followed. Why are you picking her out? Mercer turned his head sharply toward the sound, scanning faces, feeling control slip through his fingers. Phones were everywhere now. Held low, held steady, capturing angles he could not see. He took a step closer to Angela, too close. You think you're smarter than the law, he asked. Angela met his gaze. I think the law applies to both of us. That was the moment the crowd understood this was no longer routine. This was about power. About who was allowed to question it. Mercer's hand brushed his cuffs. Not yet, but soon. Angela noticed the movement. She noted it the way she noted everything. Small details mattered later. Always did. Officer, she said quietly, this is escalating unnecessarily. He laughed once, sharp and humorless. You escalated it. Around them, the platform held its breath. The train was less than a minute away, and with every second, Mercer felt the walls closing in, forcing him toward a decision that would define everything that came after. Mercer made his decision before the train arrived. He reached out and grabbed Angela's arm. Not hard, not violent, just firm enough to assert control. Firm enough to send a message. The kind of grip that could later be described as standard procedure. The platform reacted instantly. Phones lifted higher. Someone gasped. A man near the stairs said loudly, Hey, you can't do that! Angela felt the pressure first, then the cold. The metal of the handcuffs clicked open. The sound was sharp, final. It cut through the station noise like a gunshot without the echo. "Turn around," Mercer ordered. Angela didn't resist. She turned slowly, every movement measured, every second deliberate. She placed her hands behind her back exactly as instructed. The cuffs closed around her wrists. Click. The metal was colder than she expected. The pressure immediate. Not crushing, but tight enough to remind her who controlled the moment. She noted the sensation without reacting. Pain would come later. Documentation started now. "I am not resisting," she said clearly loud enough for every camera to hear. "You're being detained for disorderly conduct," Mercer said. Disorderly? For standing? For speaking? For asking a question? The crowd erupted. "That's insane. She didn't do anything. This is wrong." Mercer ignored them. He guided Angela toward the center of the platform, positioning her away from the edge. His hand stayed on her arm, fingers digging slightly deeper now. The authority in his posture grew as the resistance around him grew louder. The train roared into the station wind, whipping coats and hair, drowning out voices. Doors opened. Riders poured out. Riders froze when they saw her. A black woman in cuffs, calm, silent, surrounded by phones. Time slowed. Angela's wrists ached. The cuffs bit deeper with each small shift of her hands. She stared straight ahead, eyes unfocused, already running through statutes and policy. Unlawful detention. Retaliation for protected speech. Abuse of authority. Mercer radioed for assistance. His voice cracked just slightly on the last word. Backup arrived quickly. Another officer. Younger. Eyes darting between Angela, the phones, the crowd. He hesitated for half a second too long. "What's going on?" the second officer asked. "She refused to comply," Mercer said. "Interfered with operations." Angela said nothing. She didn't need to. The evidence was forming itself around her. Multiple angles. Multiple witnesses. Multiple timestamps. They escorted her off the platform. Past commuters who stared. Past riders who whispered. Past a woman who mouthed the words "I'm sorry" as Angela passed. As Angela. In the stairwell, the noise dropped away. Concrete walls, fluorescent lights, footsteps echoing, the smell of bleach and old water. Mercer walked behind her now, silent. For the first time, doubt crept into his posture. Small, almost invisible. But there. He was committed now. Too far to reverse. Angela felt the shift. She knew this moment. The moment when the person in power realizes they may have miscalculated but keeps going anyway. That was the most dangerous part. And it was only just beginning. They brought Angela into a small office just beyond the turnstiles. A room designed for paperwork, not people. Beige walls. A metal desk scarred with years of use. A single chair bolted to the floor. The door closed behind them with a dull thud. Mercer finally removed the cuffs, his movements stiff, procedural. He avoided her eyes. "You'll wait here," he said. "Supervisor is on the way." Angela flexed her wrists slowly. Red marks ringed the skin, already darkening. She said nothing. She didn't need to remind him. Silence was heavier now. Minutes passed. The second officer stood near the door, shifting his weight, glancing at the phones, still visible through the glass window outside. The station buzzed with quiet tension. Something had gone wrong. Everyone could feel it. At 7:58 a.m., the supervisor arrived. Lieutenant Harris was in his late 40s. Calm voice, careful eyes. The kind of officer who had survived long enough to recognize danger before it spoke. He took one look at Angela, then at Mercer. "What's the situation?" Harris asked. "Disorderly conduct." Mercer replied quickly. Refused to comply. Caused a disruption on the platform. Harris turned to Angela. "Ma'am?" Angela met his gaze. "I was ordered to leave a public platform without legal cause. I asked for clarification. I was detained for speaking." Harris nodded once, slow, thoughtful. He looked back at Mercer. "ID." Angela reached into her bag and placed a single card on the desk. Not her transit pass. Not her driver's license. Her credentials. Harris picked it up. The room changed instantly. His eyes moved across the seal. The title. The name. His jaw tightened, then went still. Department of Justice. Ethics Division. Harris looked up, then back down, then at Mercer. The color drained from Mercer's face. "I didn't know," Mercer said quickly. Too quickly. Harris held up a hand. "That's not the issue." He stepped outside the room and made a call. Short, quiet, professional. When he returned, the air felt heavier. "Ma'am," Harris said, his tone different now. Measured, respectful. "There has been a serious mistake." Angela nodded once. "Yes." Mercer stared at the floor. Harris continued. "Your detention is being terminated immediately." Angela stood, smoothed her coat, picked up her bag. I will need copies of all reports, she said. Body camera footage, station logs, names of all officers involved. Harris didn't hesitate. You'll have them. As she walked out, Mercer finally looked up. Fear had replaced certainty. Not loud fear. Quiet. The kind that settles in the stomach and never leaves. Angela passed through the station, back into the noise, back into the crowd that parted to let her through. The train she needed was gone, but the reckoning was already on its way. The first video hit social media before noon. A shaky clip at first, vertical. No narration, just sound. The echo of the platform. Mercer's voice ordering her to leave. Angela asking calmly for the legal basis. The moment the cuffs came out. The click. The crowd reacting in disbelief. By 2:00 p.m. there were angles. Someone closer. Someone from the stairs. Someone filming from behind Mercer's shoulder. Each clip filled in another gap. Timestamps, faces, words that could not be walked back. By evening, the story had a headline. Transit officer detains black woman for standing on platform. She is a DOJ ethics official. The comments poured in. Millions of them. Rage. Recognition. Stories stacked on top of stories. People who had been stopped, removed, silenced, people who had never been believed. Angela did not comment. She filed paperwork. By Friday, a federal civil rights complaint was submitted. Unlawful detention. Retaliation for protected speech. Violation of constitutional rights under color of law. The filing cited exact seconds from the footage. Policy manuals. Prior complaints against Mercer that had never been sustained. The department placed Mercer on administrative leave within 48 hours. Then came the internal investigation. Body camera review. Witness interviews. Data pulled from prior stops. The pattern was impossible to ignore once someone bothered to look. 3 months later, Mercer was terminated. No press conference. Just a memo. Conduct unbecoming. Violation of use of authority standards. Failure to de-escalate. The city settled the lawsuit quietly. 7 figures. Non-disclosure requested, declined. Angela directed the settlement into mandatory bias training reform and independent oversight funding. She refused personal compensation beyond legal fees. The platform officer lost his badge. The system lost its silence. And for once, accountability did not end at an apology. What happened on that platform was not a misunderstanding. It was a legal failure. Under the Fourth Amendment, a person in a public place cannot be detained without reasonable suspicion of specific criminal activity. Standing on a transit platform holding a valid fare and asking a question does not meet that standard. Speech, even inconvenient speech, is protected. Questioning an officer is not disorderly conduct. It is a constitutional right. The order to leave the platform was unlawful because it lacked legal basis. The detention became unlawful the moment it was enforced through physical restraint. Every action after that compounded the violation. The cuffs, the removal, the report written to justify it afterward. This is how rights erode in real time. Not with shouting, not with chaos, but with confidence and a badge and the assumption that no one will push back. There is also a psychological lesson here. Authority bias teaches people to obey figures of power even when those figures are wrong. Officers are trained to command compliance. But without accountability, that training becomes a weapon. When bias enters the equation, calm professionalism can be misread as defiance, especially when it comes from someone who does not fit the officer's mental image of authority. Angela Brooks did nothing extraordinary that morning. She did what every citizen is allowed to do. She asked why. Most people are punished for that. The practical lesson is simple and uncomfortable. If you find yourself in a similar situation, stay calm. Speak clearly. Ask for the legal basis of the order. Do not resist physically. If it is safe, ensure the interaction is being recorded. Names, badge numbers, time, location. These details matter later, even if they feel powerless in the moment. And finally, understand this. Justice did not happen because Angela was calm. It happened because evidence existed and power was forced to answer to itself. Her position did not protect her from being targeted. It protected her after the damage was already done. That is the truth we avoid. The question is not whether the officer knew who she was. The question is how many people without her title have been ordered off platforms, sidewalks, stores, and spaces they had every legal right to occupy, and how often no one ever finds out. What would you have done in her place?
We exist to pursue the truth, no matter where it leads. It is our duty to hold power to account and shine a light on the facts. After all, the records don't lie. Thanks for watching and joining the conversation.